A-level because I knew my parents might not be able to afford it. But my O-level results and me that I didn't know this is that family. But they are giving scholarships to, I think, students across about 6 or 7 schools in Ibadan that had students who had distinctions in their O-levels, Division 1, with distinction. So I fell into that category, an university scholar. So it was not based on the fact that my parents were indigent, but based on the fact I knew my parents were indigent, and I knew I had to work. I had to study hard. I had to make a success of my education. But when you go in there, at that time when we got the scholarship for the O-levels, for the first degree, education was not free. It was 35 naira per term, most of Ibadan then. It was the ambassador regime that made it free indiscriminately and brought down the quality of education.
Okay. So are you saying because it is free, that is why the quality of education is dropping or has dropped so badly?
You see, when students were paying, the tuition fees were not just spent anyhow by the university. They were used to plow resources into the universities, create a living environment for studies, equip the libraries, equip the library. It came from that. Every department got a fraction of the tuition fees paid by the student. It wasn't eaten up by the vice chancellor and the bursar. You get what I mean? Yeah. Yes. But you made it free, and at that time there were less than 20 universities, federal universities in Nigeria. One about to do made the tuition free. Now we have over 155. Where are they going to get money to equip these universities? And that is where we are. And then you are admitting students, admitting, until the walls are bursting at the seams.
You served as chairman of the Oyo State Universal Basic Education Board, Oyo Student.
Yeah.
And I want to ask the challenge of out-of-school children. How bad is it today if you have to draw a comparison with them? And there's been a template worked upon by yourself, UDEC and other student bosses across the country to take Nigerian children off the streets.
Yeah, we had a scheme. That is scheme. Actually, there is a law. There is a law in place that imposes some level of punishment on parents whose children are out of school. There was even a day I took some of my staff and said, let's go to Bodija Market and grab all these students that are moving around. And we did. We did. We carried them to...
Was it successful?
It was. We went to the police station. But by 11 p.m. of that day, there are some parents who said, yeah, leave them there. When you are tired, we release the children. We are not even coming to the station. It shows the despondency, in even the parents. But it's not a scheme that can just be implemented just like that, just like we did. We'll go on the market, go to the street, grab the student. You need to remove parents out of poverty. You see, because when parents are in extreme poverty, the children don't see any reason for education because the parents cannot even support their desire for education. But when parents are removed from poverty, they also take more interest in the education of their children. But if the parents can hardly make ends meet, if the parents themselves are thieves, the parents are so poor that they start stealing, the children will just continue to find means of augmenting what their parents are making. So the child, instead of going to school, goes to the market to go and do some other things, and they bring some scrap meat, scrap this. The parents are happy that it supplements what they have. They are not asking the child, where have you brought these items from? So it's something that has to be tackled, holistically, and has to be tackled systemically. So it must be tackled at various levels, not at just one level across board.
Now let's talk about your time in the university system. Now, you became a senior lecturer in the Department of Animal Science, University of Ibadan in 1984.
1991.
1991,
Yeah.
okay. And then you became a professor in 2005.
Yeah.
Now, in your career evolution and your metamorphosis as a politician and statesman, I see a potent fusion of the town and down, the academic and technocrats in politics. So, what are your thoughts on the fusion of the town and down in Nigeria, and what have been the mutual benefits?
Yes, I have had the very nice privilege. It's a privilege, and it's a grace of experiencing academic life in all its aspects, and also governance. And I will say this, government should make government has always been making use of academics, but government should make better use of academics. It's not by appointing them, into offices all the time, making them chairman of superintendent, but it is by giving them a quality life in the university system. You see, because of the poor conditions of service, because of the lack of facilities, when academics get into government, they see such a huge disparity in access to instruments of development. And they become, by the time they go out of the university system, they are disillusioned because they look at the university as it's like an abandoned environment. And that is very sad, because you can make the university a successful career. You can make the university a successful environment where professors should be happy to do their jobs without looking outwards to governance. But when you are in the university and you cannot even afford a newspaper, the dean of faculty cannot even afford to buy a newspaper for the entire act. But the universities don't have it. Such intellectual capital they have, they've not enforced it on government. And look, use our intellectual capital. I'll just give an example. I was at the graduation ceremony of one of my daughters in England. And don't accuse me of training my daughter in England. But it was just an opportunity. So she studied in England, and so she made the first class there. And the vice chancellor, in his address, he congratulated the department of maybe physics or something, and he said, because we won the contract for the laser polishing, that's what you were saying, of the largest telescope in the United Kingdom. This is a telescope that is, the base is like about 5 stories underground. I met one of the researchers there, one of the workers there, who at that time was even a Nobel Prize laureate in nuclear physics. I met him. And these are telescopes that look at the heavenly bodies. They are the telescope that can predict a hurricane in like a month ahead. There are telescopes that will tell you that there's going to be an earthquake. There are telescopes that can tell you a meteorite is planned. There are telescopes that can predict what will happen to life in the nearest future. It is not run by a university, it's run by government and some other private sector actors. But they needed to clean that telescope. And people must have bidded. If it was Nigeria, a Chinese company will get it. Yes. It's China that will get it. But in that UK, companies bid there, including that university. And that university won the contract to build that telescope. And he said the value of the contract was £17.5 million. So he said that money has enabled the university to do ABC in that faculty, in that department, is helped to put 4 or 5 students on this other program, and this and this and that, this and that, and that they had to be able to win, they had to also bring another sister university into that contract as a partner. They themselves will not even do it on their own, but that the share of the University of Wales, that's the university, was like about £11.5 million. So he said, congratulations to the students, to the staff, to this, to that. I don't know what other project they were involved in. But in West Ibadan, there was a flood along towards Idia Hall, that area. There was a flood, and federal government had to come in because it affected the Department of Fisheries, swept up a lot of fish and all of that. The canals caved and all of that. So they went and awarded the contract to one Hausa company from the north, Jose Azaman. And they brought all the equipment and they were dredging. The vice chancellor of Professor Ajibode. So I went to the floor of the Vice Senate. So I called the vice chancellor and said, this man is really bringing workers from the north, outside people, to come and be working on repairing the contract about maybe 400 or 500 million naira. So I said, we have a Department of Civil Engineering in this university. Why couldn't the university have bidded for that job within its own soil? Okay, university did not bid. One company from outside got it. Where are our own engineering students now? Why can't they even go in there and work? Look at what's Ibadan. Because that is near university to me. Look at all the building projects that are going on. Is any Department of Civil Engineering involved in any project that is going on that university? And every day, third, fourth, all these places, they award contracts in that university. So, if we cannot make our own charity to begin at home, what is the value of giving our children degrees in civil engineering when they cannot even be there constructing roads within the university? Why is the university not bidding for these contracts? Why do we have to carry our vehicles and take them to a roadside mechanic? Like vehicles of university, and you have a department of mechanical automobile engineering.
Maybe that is the situation we find ourselves in Nigeria. Universities produce young people. They have the certificates, but they keep on looking for employment. Is it because they cannot defend the certificates they are holding?
Because they were not given the skills. They were given theoretical. In fact, Nigeria started shooting itself in the foot 30, 40 years ago. When you're at O levels, you are preaching to prepare students for O levels exam, chemistry, physics. They will say alternative to practicals. Where will that lead us? And you want somebody who did alternative to practicals, say I have A1 in chemistry. He did alternative to practicals. He finds him, then he goes to the Department of Chemistry in a university. He entered through alternative to practicals. So the first time you see a test tube, a Bunsen burner in that university, how will you cope? If you have scrap things like that.
But also, I get what you are saying. Universities also need to give something to be able to get something.
Yeah.
But then for me, this still doesn't justify why the corporate organizations would overlook social responsibility. I would prefer to sponsor maybe a reality show where young people engage in weeks of debauchery, young people have sex in front of your world on national TV, international television, and it still doesn't add up for me. Why would you prefer to sponsor those kind of shows instead of pumping your money by your corporate social responsibility into the university system?
let the vice chancellor of that university identify the manpower, the intellectual power he has. Let them make the appropriate demands from those companies. I'll give an example. In my own department, it's animal science. There's a company, CZAD. They have Zatec.
Vocational skills these days, when students graduate from the universities, they want to go and serve. And
nursery, even pre-nursery, crèche, nursery and primary. I'm chairman of that board. And I told the teachers and I told the parents that, look, we will not limit ourselves to the curriculum. Let's start looking at the talents of these your children. If you find a child that is so good in drumming, so we have to buy a drum set and make sure that he spends more time after school hours on the drums, not using that time to be doing any stupid, well, all these children know, they know how to use WhatsApp and all of this social media on the phone. So don't let them have bad habits. Those who know how to carve, let them execute. Those who knows how to dismantle a phone, I said, it is the skills that the child acquires beside the academic skill that will help that child in the future. And I said, look, I have derived my pleasure from music. I'm heavily into music because I just took it as an interest, as a hobby. And it helps me and it's helped other people. And people also come and they say, this guy is a fantastic, I know somebody, he retired as a maths teacher. He's a fantastic guitarist. And he still does that even in retirement. And he still makes some money. And I said, if we don't limit our children to just paper qualification only, and we let them also acquire skills. And that is why I think federal government is trying to do something about vocational education. Because we need to revamp vocational education in a manner that brings dignity. In the United Kingdom, they have these NVQs, National Vocational Qualification Examination. And those ones are good because what they do is they have linkages with companies. You have a company that's doing refrigeration. They're repairing fridges, repairing this, repairing that. And many of them, those technicians that can repair a refrigerator, repair a freezer, they don't have any paper qualification. And they might have been doing it for 25 years. Maybe the only person with qualification is the chief executive. It might not even be a proper qualification, but they will still be calling him engineer. But the other boys that are helping him, who can dismantle your freezer and put together, don't even have anything. If tomorrow that company shuts down, he goes on the street with nothing. He will just be going around. Maybe somebody that is doing a roadside, maybe car AC, air conditioning. You say, well, come and work for me. What's the experience? I used to work for A&C in an engineering company for about 15, 20 years. Okay, join them in the pool. But if that company that has a chief executive, A&C engineering company, and the man has a qualification, has a degree, a certificate, a diploma in all of this, then we can make his outfit. There's somebody, for instance, in Okebola, I repair my fridge. I use that as a hypothetical example. He's buying my fridges and freezers for me. I was there yesterday. I saw at least about 15 standing refrigerators. I saw air conditioners rather. I saw about 20 or 25 fridges, deep freezers, and all of that that is requiring something you want to sell. That is a mini instructional center. So we now say, look, all the people that are doing similar work here, you can be coming here, you pay him from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. maybe every Thursday, you will be teaching these trainees the theoretical aspects. Let them know gas theory. Let them know properties of matter, so that they will know precisely what that gas that you are pumping into, what it is doing. Let them see, the properties of all these insulation materials and all of that. So once a week, they start learning, and at the end of about 3 months, you set a small exam for them. If they pass it, they move on to the next level. If they do that consistently for about 3 or 5 years, it is not freedom, it's a certificate that is equivalent to an OND that you give them. And we must have bodies. These vocational, coordinating bodies at the state level that will be involved. So they are the ones that will provide the certificate. Oh, you've done the test for them. So the guy now knows properties of matter. The guy now knows the principles, of air expansion, cooling, and things like that. So he gets a certificate. So tomorrow, if you find yourself in Lagos, find yourself in Calabar, and there is an industry, maybe it's Chinese too, and they are looking for people. It's a BLC. They will employ that one and say, okay, you have to be a manager, and he knows nothing. But if this one has that, your AND is equivalent, what you have equivalent of an AND. By the time you do that thing for about 7 or 10 years, they can give you another certificate that is equivalent of maybe a BSc. So he is fulfilled. He knows that he has a means of livelihood in the future. So our vocational training must be backed by qualifications, by diplomas that are the equivalent of what is given in our tertiary institutions. The day we do that, there will be dignity in certain labors.
Mr. Bibino, I think I've seen quite a vivid example of what you are saying here. I was, where we are sinking a borehole somewhere here in Ibadan, and then these boys from Benue and Plateau with little or no education, they were working for an Indian expatriate, and then the man sent them to the site. He wasn't there himself. I actually underrated them, but when they started work, I could see that they were very, very conversant with every coordinate for sinking the borehole. They were very savvy with every mathematical requirement for sinking the borehole. The man was giving them instructions, and they were carrying it out effectively. When it got to a point that the Indian thought it was risky to go on, they looked at it and they told him that they could still go a few feet further. And I was wondering that with their little or no formal education, how could they do all this? And the Indian had absolute confidence in them. So, but the question I want to ask now, there was a directive by the Minister of Education very recently that the 6334 system should be collapsed, and I wonder what are the implications of this for vocational and technical education.
Yes, I read that, and I must confess that I didn't quite read it through completely. But I think what they're trying to do too is to see how the child can veer off, if he's vocationally, inclined. But I don't think that is really the way forward. The way forward is let us set up a properly constituted vocational, administration, vocational training, skills acquisition, coordination. So the child can still be, that's what I'm saying, even child can still be in school and still be acquiring vocational skills. They see, you don't need to, this child, the only thing this child really wants is carpentry, so I'm going to stop my training here. No, if he wants to, yes, but if he wants to continue, let him continue, but give him that opportunity to go into carpentry, as a vocational skill acquisition. And at the end of the day, let him have a certificate in that carpentry. He may end up even being a history graduate. But one day, maybe he's just certificate that when he cannot even get a job, even as a teacher of history, that he will find himself into one company and say, but I need this federal national vocational certificate, there's like OMD in carpentry, so let me work here. And they give him tools, and they does him, and they say, well, are you trainer? No, I have a degree in history, but I had this MVQ, level 1. Level 1 may be OMD, or level 1 may be O levels. Maybe level 1 is O levels. Maybe level 2 is OMD. Oh, I have MVQ level 2. So, oh, wow. Okay, then they rate you appropriately. So your training in history is not wasted. You can still end up becoming a historian on your own, writing stories. But you will not starve. That is, are you getting it? I advocate. For instance, I compose. So if I don't have anything to eat, I will start composing music and be sending it to media houses and film houses, and I will be, so it's just supposed to be an adjunct, like another side, attachment to our education delivery, so that we know that at the end of the day, we are training these children in a manner that will make them employable. Because in another 5, 6, let's say 10, 15 years, AI will replace paper knowledge. AI cannot replace skills. AI can tell you this is the best way to cut wood. This is the best way to set your camera and go. AI cannot set that camera for you. This is the way you can do your camera to make sure that your photographs and co are right. AI can give you all the prescription. AI cannot hold that camera and deliver good photography. You have to do it.
So, in view of, I want us to talk about the field of agriculture now.
Yeah.
And you are an animal science expert, and you've held vital positions and strategic positions relating to food security and food production. Now, I want to ask, in all these, what has been your position and recommended solutions to the problem of farmers-herders conflicts across the country?
You see, farmer-herders conflict is not because of electioneering, challenges. We don't want to take difficult decisions. But I think Mr. President has, in a way, shown Nigerians that when you need to take a difficult decision, take it and face the backlash. And we live with it. If it works for you, fine. If it doesn't work for you, but at least you will take it. So that's why I deal with fuel subsidy, and all of that. So with these two, they should take a step forward. There was a time, thank God we're not that era, when Buhari even wanted to start creating rugas, grazing corridors. And I said, you are going to create more conflict, We have reached a level where ranching should be a first line principle. And that ranching is not by forcing a state to create land for one full animal to bring cows to. No, it's for us to, it will take time, it's for us, for those who want to go into cattle farming, cattle ranching, for government to be able to provide them access to the land, not encroaching on farmlands for crops. And there you'll be able to raise your stock, grow them, sell them, not drag them all over the place, and put a complete ban on all of this movement of cattle, all manners of people going into other people's farms and all of that. The farmer had that conflict will do more harm, than good if that still continues. So that should be banned. And let me tell you this. If we have to suffer maybe shortage of beef for a short while, it's still better in the long run. Because it is not even improving our economy. If daily we slaughter almost 2,000 cattle in this Ibadan, almost 2,000, and you are selling one cow for 500,000 naira. Okay, let's even say the whole of Oyo State, 2,000. But Ibadan, I know Ibadan slaughter about 1,005 daily, because Lagos slaughter 6,000. So 2,000 at 500,000 naira. That means the amount of money we pour into eating beef in one day is about 1 billion naira. Are you getting it? I don't know. The mathematics, 500,000 times 2,000. It's about 1 billion naira. If it's 1 billion or 100 million, I don't know. But if it's 1 billion naira, have you ever seen any Yoruba man here? Consortium of cattle ranchers sharing 1 billion naira per day. So that money goes passing their ranches anywhere between here and Sokoto. These cattle keep coming from Chad, they keep coming from Niger. Those ones can breed their own cattle there. They can raise their cattle there, drive them to Nigeria through middlemen. They will pay 1 billion naira, and out of that 1 billion naira, only like about 50 million goes to the people that are on the ground, the butchers and cooks, that they share. Nobody that is at the bottom of that pyramid takes more than 10,000 naira home in a day. But some people who are not even Nigerians are going to be raking about 1.5 billion naira. And then the same thing happens in Lagos and all of that. And we say, it is okay. That is not normal. Let us also establish our own ranches in areas that are valuable, making the money. It will create money for those who will be growing feed for the cattle. It will create money for those who will be transporting them. They create money, and that chain will be within our own economic environment, economic cycle. But if you go and buy one cow in Mania, or go and buy it elsewhere, you realize that you are not actually buying it from that person that is taking the money from you. The money, when take that money from you, is a middleman. At the end of the day, they will count that money, hold it, put them in sacks, and then carry them with their AK-7 and take those monies back again, to the north. And it's a daily thing. So you can't continue like that.
Okay, go ahead. The actually we are talking about as a viable solution, we must also admit that a certain ethnic nationality is in control of this trade. And if we are talking about ranching, then there is this trust gap between the prospective host communities and the herders who have that particular ethnic stock. We've been blamed for every carnage that happens when this farmers herders crisis occurs. So how do we begin first and foremost to bridge that trust gap between the host communities and the herders that will be making use of the ranches? Like I said, remember, it is this particular ethnic nationality that actually control the trade and mostly have the necessary skill to tend to these animals.
The skill is not domiciled in them. We are the ones who are lazy. We are the ones who are lazy. You see, we take the very easy way out. It's a very easy one. Oh, let them continue to bring their cattle. If you know how many thousands of acres are there, empty, even in Oyo State, go to Ministry of Agric, go to Igogo, go to a lot of areas in Okeogun. You find out of these people that they've even taken over almost on. There was a time I was on this program here, and I said that area where those children were abducted into, that old National Park, is almost as huge as Bayelsa State. You borders 10 Saudi local governments. I don't do anything there now. If we turn the whole of that place into our own cattle ranch, it will feed the whole of the southwest, not just Oyo State alone. We can do it. But if we are not careful, those same people will still drive their own cattle into those areas and be conflicting with even the arable farmers, that are growing crops, because there is no control, there is no legislation. But if we set up under our own control, our own legislation, then there will be no confrontation whatsoever, because the arable farmers will also be planting crops too that will be feeding those cattle. Not the cattle just run into the farms, of innocent people who are trying to make a livelihood, and they eat up their crops and still kill them. So why don't you brace up? Try as much as possible to absorb the initial discomfort. If we take out 2-3 months of reduced beef, it's even good. Then we'll do more of chicken. We'll do more of other,
fish and eggs,
protein sources.
Yeah.
And then we'll have peace.
But chicken will become expensive.
Listen, it is, like I said, laziness. You find time to come to my house, you will find local chickens. And I use that just as an example. In my house, I have local chicken about 40. A lady gave me 6 hens and 1 cock. She just gave them to me about 7-9 months ago. She was a former student of mine. And I just put them in my house. I look around, this one is already breeding here. Just completely local environment. In my own house in GRA. 8 eggs, 6 hatched, things like that. I'm not even doing it commercially. But now, even though my wife is always fighting when I want to kill them, say, I know they're like our household thing. So we don't really need to suffer if we are serious. That's how I'm going.
So it is our laziness, so to speak, that is making us to suffer. We struggle to eat, and we have a lot of agricultural potential. But when people are lazy, they will be struggling to even eat. But then how do we now come out of all of this? Food crisis, there are issues, I know, like maybe insecurity, transportation, maybe financing. So people keep complaining. How do we get out of all of this?
I said, place a 100% ban on cattle grazing.
And is that achievable?
It's achievable. Place 100%. If they put a ban on cattle on one item or something like this in the north, you will know what they will do. Put 100% ban on grazing. But before you do that, you will run into the problem we have with subsidy, no subsidy, and there is no safety net. Gather together the right information. Put together the right framework. If it takes 1 year, this is where we can have ranches, grazing, products for our animals. Put all of that there, ensure how you can sustain them. 1 year can do that. And that's where the universities come into play. We have a Federal University of Agriculture. That's in Abeokuta. And right off Ibadan, you have Lautech, you have all of that. Engage all these academics. How much are you going to pay them? They will map out all this for government at very reasonable cost. Then when all that is in place, ban grazing completely. There will be no insecurity on the farms, because who is going to bring cattle to your farm now? When it is banned? And we already have our local security, Amateku, all of those things there, you know, and then you have local government autonomy. Let each local government chairman responsible for the protection of, you know, all those farmers in their areas, because grazing has been banned. Classes that will occur will start maybe in the teething stages. In under 4 or 5 months, it will. If you don't go to your state, you can't graze cattle there. Yes.
So people can go to farm freely without any fear of being attacked.
Why did you do that? Okay.
All right. Now, we still have something that we need to do, and that is making agriculture attractive to young people. This century. How then do we do that?
Let me be frank with you. Agriculture is hard.
Really?
Agriculture is hard. Hard in the sense that it's not easy for somebody without a passion for agri to go into it. You can take something today, buy it for 10 naira and sell it tomorrow for 12 naira, 2 naira profit. You can't do that with agriculture. Agriculture is an investment, and it's an investment that also has lots of unpredictabilities and risks and uncertainties. So government again has to come to the aid of those who genuinely want to go into farming, and start by providing aids. This state, or your state, cannot boast of government-assisted tractors in the entire Oyo state. I don't know if we have under 500. So where do we start from? A tractor will save about brand new 45, 50, 60 million. Who will afford that? So we must plow money into areas that will make agriculture attractive. Let's have it. We used to have a tractor assembly plant. Let's reactivate it. I think I'm on LLE. Let's reactivate it. Let's have our engineering companies manufacturing simple farm tools. And let farmers have access to these tools with minimal, financial outlay. Find a way. You must help the farmer and those who want to be farmers. You have to help them. There must be incentives. But do you know what it costs to clear land? What it costs to maintain it? What it costs to fertilize? It's expensive. Government has to find a level ground where people can go into farming without breaking their back.
Now, if you have the opportunity of recommending a policy to the government, what agricultural policies would you recommend for the government at this point?
Well, one of the policies I would recommend to government is let every local government do a register.
Okay.
Look, in my local government, not like Ibadan North, we don't have agric land. Talk about local government that have land. Only do a register and do community mobilization. Children who want to go to farming, register. When you register, where do you want to do your farming? What areas? Where is the land? What is the land ownership there? Work it out. In your Oluyole, I think it's okay. In Oluyole, we can map out 1,000. Let me give you an example. Government signed off about 13,000 acres of land to a company in Oluyole local government. Big time farming. They've not done 2,000 acres in the last 5 years. 185,000. Okay, these youths, you will vote the tractorization, you will get it. The implements, you will get it. We will monitor this and that for you. We will supply you also with technical advice. We will do the screening for you. Out of the 1,000 that have applied, maybe 100 people will scale through. I will support you. That is the only way. When those 100 people succeed, the next batch of people will be more encouraged. But if you go and say, let's do 1,000, and they start dropping out, other people will no longer be interested. Reduce it to start, even if it's just 50. Do that in about 10 local governments. Then their colleagues will see them that, this guy is doing it now, he's even able to buy himself an Okada. He's being able to buy himself, the Marwa. It's not going to be achieved overnight, but there must be. And government must also put a mini stop to acquisition of rural land for maybe housing or whatever things for now. They must be, otherwise the people there will no longer be able to afford their own land for agriculture. And the people that are putting there will not farm. So there will be pressure on food prices will skyrocket, and the local people will suffer. So there won't be a balance.
What has been the bane of post-album agricultural interventions, such as Operation Feed the Nation, the Green Revolution, and Cocoa Rebirth, just as Nigeria is still trying to find its pride of place on the global food market, despite its vast agricultural development potentials?
Yeah, I think now Minister of Agriculture is split into two. There's a Federal Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, and there's a Ministry of Livestock Development. I think they need to work in close relationship with the states. Abuja cannot stay there and say, we have federal ministry. You will know. It is in the states and local government that you have the land. But they have resources, they have support that they can. Even the cocoa rebirth they're talking about, we need to go back, And I know, I think the Cocoa Research Institute just 2 months ago launched production of 1 million cocoa seedlings, which is a very good thing, which is very good. But it's not even going to be enough, to be able to attract, young people to come into, big-time agriculture. So, government has to, under these new, maybe, agricultural policies that are coming up, they have to ensure that, one, our major problem in Nigeria is corruption. Every program will be run to ground. Look at our fertilizer industries. We had one in Mina. I don't think it's producing. The one in Port Harcourt and in One, I don't know what the status is. And that means in the last, there's this one, Morris, that's what is called Mina. In the last 20, 25 years, we have not increased our fertilizer industries. Thank God, now we have Dangote, it's a refinery. And the good thing about that, again, if there is no corruption, our Minister of Agric must also work with the National Petroleum, and the Dangote, because if we are not careful, we will also lose the benefits of having local refinery. Because the Dangote refinery is refining our own crude. And at least about 20% of those extractives, I don't know what happens to them, but I think government should place a ban, full ban, on the Dangote refinery from exporting any of the extractives. I know it's exporting jet fuel, aviation fuel, which is fine. It's exporting petrol. It must not be allowed to export all those extractives that can go into our local plastics manufacturing industries. Local fertilizer, sulfur, which is extracted, from refined petrol and all of that. So we have opportunity of ensuring that we retain some of this for domestic industry, especially in agric. If that is also harnessed, it will help to revitalize our agricultural industry, because we need the basic ground support. Fertilizer cannot be skyrocketing in price, and you think a young school leaver will want to go into agriculture. It's not possible.
Now let's go to politics, democracy, and of course the general elections ahead of us in year 2027. How would you compare Nigerian politics then with what we have today?
Politics today has improved. It has really improved. It has really improved. And I think we need to give credit to former President Goodluck Jonathan.
Okay.
He changed the narrative when he brought in Professor Jega. Jega came from the university. He was a university activist. He was an ASU, agitator and all of that. And they brought him in. And he brought in IT. That's why I think universities are not, he brought in, it was under him that we started having the beavers, and all of that. He brought in IT. Then he did something else. He changed the narrative by having return officers from his constituency, the universities. I'm not saying professor cannot be bought, but at least it brought in a bit of credibility. It changed the narrative, and it became more difficult because nobody wants to be seen to be ridiculed. So you want to be a professor and you want to be there when they are changing 1 0 and adding another 0 to 100, and then somebody comes around and starts debunking it, and they say, and you call yourself a professor. So professors also needed to defend, their own integrity. So things have improved tremendously, and the election we had recently in Osun State proved that. Well, they were making online uploading, of results. And I was shocked when I went online and I was seeing the Form itself, the form that everybody signed in the raw form, not that it had been typed. No, it was uploaded like that, as if it was scanned. I said, this is good. So I think the momentum should be sustained and is good for our democracy, because what we suffer in Nigeria is intense monetization of the political system of votes. So if the voting system is so powerfully monetized, and yet you're able to achieve that level where you vote and it is uploaded, then the effect of money is severely reduced. Because where you can have corruption is at the collation center, when you can use intimidation to drive away the other opposition, and security forces just allow a minority to enter and they start doctoring. But these things have been uploaded in real time, so I think it's a good, improvement.
It's time for our highly esteemed viewers. It's your turn to be part of the program, guest of the month this afternoon. We welcome your questions and contributions. The studio lines are displayed right on your screen. 070-106-8375 and 0708
6825197 or 90716 06375 and 07086825197. We expect your calls, ask your questions. If there are any comments you want to make too, let's just be civil about it. We welcome whatever you want to let us know.
Professor, you mentioned the monetization of the electoral process. Do you have a solution to vote buying?
And that's the area of monetization is the one that I also want to talk about because it's the end thing now.
Do you have a solution to that?
Before it was Dibo Kobo, then it escalated to Dibo Kosibe. Now they say it is Dibo Korale. We cannot, in the immediate future, eradicate that because of the poverty. You have to be realistic. There's poverty in the land, and even people who are already committed to their candidate, they will still expect money from that candidate. And again, because how many of our politicians, when they have won election, how many of them can they approach again? How many do they have access to? So they will say, look, this is the only opportunity to earn some money. So they go. And there's nothing you can do. It is only when politicians, those who are in office, try to make this so-called dividend of democracy, accessible. They make it visible, to the electorate. They help them, and then they know that, well, then if I put this man there, we are still going to, access some benefit. But you vote in there and you want to move near him, even security will not even allow you, and it's very discouraging. So we need to also going to sensitize political office holders that many people don't know this, that when you elect somebody, even as a councillor, you are the one giving the job, you are employing him. Your vote is part of his employment, process. And the electoral office holder, the political office holder should not see himself as somebody that is just, that just emerged, from he was not created, he was elected. He was not created by any funny system. He was not just, conjured by magic. A process got him there. So political office holders should understand that it is a contract between them and those who voted them in. They actually they are employers. President Tinubu is the employer of all those who voted him. Nigerians employed him to come and deliver good governance.
He's the employee.
Yes, he's an employee. He's an employee. And he should be seen in that spirit. And that is why we still have this corruption. This mindset that, once the politician is there, he is removed from his immediate environment. He has acquired another level of existence. No, it shouldn't be. You don't find that in developed, climes. I keep saying that I had an experience many years ago in one of my, government's, experiences where we made some trips. That was a long time ago. We made some trips to Israel, and the man that was going around with us, he was even the one who handled the processing of our passports, at the airport, to make sure that, we got everything free. And he was going around, in his canvas and coming around the man, are you okay? Things like that. He was a minister in his country, was a minister. And that person was Benjamin Netanyahu, who is currently now a prime minister of his own country in Israel. Another time, I I think it was the Minister of Internal Affairs. Honestly, I just took him for maybe one of the protocol officers of their ministry. Until later realized that it was actually the minister. Yes. And all the paraphernalia of office that will push people away, were not there. Because you don't need that showmanship for you to deliver security. The fact that he was coming in and out did not mean that there were not people around him, which we were not even seen, not so visible, but they were already monitoring the security of that area. If you go to the White House, even moving around the fence of the White House, you don't see anybody trying to drive you away, but they have eyes, even from the satellite. They are seeing you. You put your hand in your pocket, there is something materialized very close to you, realize that, so I've been under watch, So there is less intimidation. And once we are able to achieve that, people will be looking, let me say, the monetization aspect will be gradually reduced, because when they know that we can always continue to have access to our representative, then the idea of let's make this a one time, and you want me to work for you, go and make 100,000 naira, because I know that once I get that, I won't see you again. So it's a two-way thing. Political office holders too must create space for the electorate to have access to them.
I saw something unfold in the just concluded Osun governorship elections, and I don't know if I'm right about what can be expected to materialize in 2027. I saw a situation where people said very expressly that they are no longer pawns on the chessboard of the political elite, and that victory in elections is no longer about permutations, strategizing, and inter-party defections, and someone having the menu button of millions of people. It is as if voter awareness is gradually changing, and it's now much more about individual choices than where someone, a group of people, wants the electorate to be. What do you think, Professor Adejumi?
Yeah, I think that will help. And it's also happening. It's also happening. It's not yet. It's not as if, yes, we have reached that level, but I think there is a shift, along that path. And that shift, I can assure you, will be sustained. The level of voter awareness is increasing. And as long as we sustain that and also reduce elements of thuggery. Yes, because when you want your votes to count, and some people go there and steal the ballot box, it nullifies all those gains. But now, the Osun election has shown us that we can achieve a high level of voting transparency. It will be better because, Osun was an offline election, so it was an off cycle, and it's isolated, and there are so many intrigues and all that. But now, in next year, it's going to be across about 22, 23 states, So the idea of heavy concentration of power, of resources on only one single state, put himself, where he can be, questioned, run a town hall, even at times, so even the people that even get very eloquent and all of that, it still doesn't, there's no assurance that eloquence will translate to, better governance. But it's still good to know, at least, that, look, I have confidence in candidate A over candidate B, because candidate is able to express what he or she wants to do, and we can follow, the line of thought and all of that. So the press has a big role to play in bringing candidates to come and speak, on their ambitions.
Let's quickly talk about the Nigerian Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, and which has been severally blamed for much of our woes as a nation. They say it's a military constitution, but I dare say it wasn't soldiers that sat down to draft that constitution. So its failure or otherwise, is this not a game about us?
So what you are trying to do, what you are giving them was the 1979 Constitution to look at, prescribe what we wanted. But in that 1999, that 1988 Constitution, we already had a template set by Babangida, and template was that it would be a presidential system of government. So when you already lay down the framework, we could not even say, no, let's go to parliamentary. We were given the 1979 Constitution, and then there was a political bureau set up by Babangida too, that they worked on that, and they also gave, some inputs to that Constitution. But in that Constitution, we made efforts to create certain positions for the Nigerian system. We wanted to create a new order, and that new order, if it had worked, would have removed a lot of what is going on now. One, we wanted to remove religion completely from that Constitution. We wanted religion to be an absolutely personal matter and not bring it into state affairs. So if we had succeeded, things like Sharia, like this, all of those things, which now has been weaponized and turned into weapons of brutality by these terrorists now coming around that you impose strange laws in your locality and all of that will not even have arisen, because there will have been no reference. Are you getting it? We also wanted to make certain things that are totally exclusive, making them not even making them concurrent, but we will remove the exclusivity of the federal government into it. Things like education, like agriculture. We wanted them to develop absolutely on the states and let just the federal government just provide some guidance. So we did quite a lot. But three things happened. At a stage, Babangida flew down. He was then in Lagos. He had not moved to Abuja. He flew down to Abuja. He came to the Constituent Assembly Hall and prescribed no-go areas. So he stopped up to try and circumvent that, because we wanted a constitution that would reflect the wills of the people. At the end of the day, we ended that session 1989, presented the constitution to him. That constitution was never promulgated till today. So he didn't promulgate it till he left. When he left, Shoneko did not touch it. When Abacha came, Abacha did not touch it. When Absalom came, Absalom just went and amended 79. So nobody referred to the 89 Constitution. So it is the same military that is still being run, and that Constitution can never deliver good governance to Nigeria until you devolve power, until you devolve power substantially to the constituent, states, and regions. We cannot have a people. So I still believe that the closest we could have had to that was the 2014 Jonathan's political bureau, the confab. But Jonathan too didn't have the courage to implement it. He was hoping that if he got a second term, then he would implement it. And I think we are even implemented it then. if I even secured him a second term.
It's all this because a particular part of the country tends to be overbearing. Some people tend to blame northern Nigeria, and they say that
We had 4 areas of new order we had in the 1889 constitution, and Babangida flew down to come and expunge, and he restricted us, and they called those areas no-go areas. So he's Babangida a southerner, so he was pandering to northern interests.
All right, let's come back to our states, or your states. Having served your state in several capacities, what do you consider the state's greatest untapped economic opportunities?
Our state is a state with massive resources. Do you know that our state has exactly the same land area, inland area, as the state of Israel? 27,000 square kilometers. And 1/3 of Israel is pure desert, totally unproductive. The whole of southern Israel is desert. It's the north, Haifa, all those areas that, produces all that Israel relies on to feed itself and also export food. So, Oyo State has tremendous resources in agriculture. Also has tremendous resources in education. There are over 11 federal research institutions in Oyo State. IT is there, Cocoa Research is there, IRT, so many. Oyo State, I'm not coming from a meeting this morning, where we were looking at the mineral resources, even just within Ibadan. The level of our going in Ibadan. I'm not even talking of Yokogo. Oyo State has enough mineral resources that can transform this state into maybe the top 2 states in Nigeria. If we really mine, harness, manage the solid minerals we have in Oyo State can be making 10 times what Oyo State earns today, even from the federal government. Oyo State will not need any to go cap in hand to be waiting for monthly allocation. It requires only dedicated, holistic, and determined leadership.
What do you think of the agribusiness initiative of the Oyo State government in these peculiar circumstances of a looming national food crisis? Should emphasis be on food production and food security, or just value addition to agricultural raw materials for commercial and industrial production? I think the agribusiness initiative is tilted more towards that.
You see, the agribusiness is a good thing, but first of all, people have to be self-sufficient in food production. If you cannot double, triple, quadruple domestic food production, then the agribusiness component will sooner or later collapse. That is the bottom line. It will collapse. It's a good initiative, but you don't start from the end and now cycle back to the starting point. So there should have been a start, massive increase in food production, as well as rural level. Then you now go to the value added and the agribusiness company, because the agribusiness is going to be managed by a minority. It's not majority that will feed the agribusiness, but it is that majority that should feed that minority. But if the majority is not structured, well established, well funded, well sustained, that minority will not, in under 5-6 years, you will find that most of those initiatives will be moribund.
And we are talking about the need for Oyo State government to be able to harness its mineral resources. How do we do that in a system where the federal government virtually controls mineral resources across the states? What manner of resource control can we have that would help us to have a very significant control over these resources?
When you want to control your resources, you fight for it. You fight for that control. When you go to the Ministry of, Ministry of Solid Minerals, licenses have been issued over the last 25 years to all manners of players. What have they done with those licenses? Other than to just open the gate for some Malians, from people from, non-Nigerians to come with their crude, and then dig whatever they can, intimidate the local people, and fear the dregs. And they will say, we'll hold the license to so area in your own state. However, in your own state, and you will allow them to be holding that piece of paper and deprive you of resources that you accrued to your state. All stops for your state from establishing 2 or 3 or 4 lines of licensing and making it clear that we will not have these ones. They have not. Let them come with a profile of what else it has benefited from those licenses given them, and then to justify holding on to it. Anyway, laughing over it. No, now we know what to do now.
Okay, so what will be your the major intervention you would like to recommend to your state governments to significantly improve the lives of its people? Your recommendation?
That should be a topic for another day. because we're going to an electionary period, and we need to be a bit circumspect with some of our in our state. We, like I said again, we have the resources. We have not tapped those resources. Our state is almost like a state of anything goes. There are so many. Look at transportation. I said this elsewhere that this is the state that should have a very, very robust transportation network, well managed. But what you just see is park managers jumping on the road. At times, if they do it in such a manner that you can't even show what they even frighten some people, you will think that these are armed robbers. You have motor parks, new motor parks that are totally unorganized. People have been going abroad now. We've seen bus stations, we've seen bus parks in UK, in America, and co. They were not even recently established, been established for about 10, 15, 20 years, and they are still doing well. So we cannot have a bus station with proper commercial, zones there.
Without these, Professor Adejumo, the parking road and then the one at Ojo and all that, and I think the park and bus system is much, not perfect, Professor Adejumo, but I think it's much better organized than what we used to have, and it has smiled on the economy of Oyo State, if you ask me. The money that was going into private pockets is now going into government coffers.
That is not the way it should have been run. That is not. That's not the run. Look at that Iwo Road. You go there and try and enter a bus and say you want to go somewhere. It's still as if you are sitting in the old, bus station system. By now, we thought that we should have a step whereby you drive into that park, you go into an office, you take a ticket. There's a computer that people operating in, and they say, oh yes, go to bay 44, or Bay 12, bus 15 is on the queue. You are going to Mogon, you are going to Elisha, and then you have structurally trees on one side. You have, people that are well regulated. That will make 10 times the kind of money that your state is so-called making.
So we'll get there sometime someday.
That's I say is a topic for another.
Oh, exactly, because our time is fast spent.
As we wind down, let's, now that you mentioned election in 2007, there is a group, they call themselves B100, who are trying to find a viable alternative, opposition alternative, by way of a coalition, an alternative to President Tinubu. Is this the way to go? Why don't they just allow the multiplicity of candidates and allow people to make their choices? As we round down,
Is it for me? For me, I don't believe in any coalition or any coalition. What I just believe is let the people determine who they want to govern them. If the people decide that they all want to come together and adopt one single candidate,